Chris Roebuck, visiting professor at Cass Business School, joins us now, and he has worked at several international banks and can give us a bit of insight. The markets were not impressed by what HSBC achieved, but I mean, in view of what we've seen elsewhere, it's not bad, is it?
To be honest, it's pretty good if you take the comparisons. If you take the UK comparisons, if you take the other global comparisons, it's pretty good. And HSBC is a truly global powerhouse, as their sort of motto says, global and yet local, and that's how they're making the money.
And of course, they're making the money in Asia.
And that's the key to it, because that's where the markets are expanding, and indeed Latin America, that's now up to nearly half of their revenue. And indeed, you know, HSBC, that's where it came from. That's what it used to be called, Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation. So to a degree, they're actually going home.
What about this debate about bonuses, which has been particularly aggressive, I would say, in the UK?
Well, the attitude to bonuses in the UK is predicated primarily on those banks in the UK that took government money and are still seeking to pay large bonuses to members of their investment banking staff. HSBC did not take any government money. HSBC is actually much more of a global bank that just happens to be based in UK. And as far as that's concerned, actually, when you look at the bonuses, they are not unreasonable compared to the banks in the UK. Yet it is a truly global bank. It is the biggest of the Western banks. And in that sense, I think it's fair to say those bonuses aren't out of line.
Do you think that HSBC might take a look at the Eurozone crisis and say that they'd rather be both feet in Asia, not just half a foot in Europe?
Well, from the perspective of any bank, it's about managing risk effectively. And the beauty of being global is you can manage that. And if you are reducing exposure to Europe and increasing exposure into your expanding markets, that makes perfect sense. And it's a bank anyway that historically has a culture of conservative with a small c. It likes to keep a reasonably low profile, and therefore this is fitting in with a long-term strategy.
Do you think that other banks also might look at this and say, OK, so you've sidestepped the Eurozone crisis and you've sidestepped the financial crisis, you know, pretty well. Yeah. But, you know, we could see something brewing in Asia.
You never know what's going to happen in Asia, and we'll just see how it goes. But I think they're reasonably confident. They've got a very, very good base in Asia that's grown up historically. And certainly one of the sort of views of HSBC amongst other banks is that HSBC is rather like a supertanker. It's just pointed in one direction and it sails sedately on, irrespective of the storms around it and what everyone else is doing.
Chris, thanks so much.